Now, several laps into the session, Thomas Krüger Dorado looks to refine their line and timing. Over 50 minutes left on the clock for this practice session, but Adam Tyus is still biding his time in the garage.
No rush for Tyus just yet. He'll be checking the telemetry from the outlaps, making sure the brake bias is exactly where he wants it before he commits to a flyer.
Still no time on the board for James Garvok, though we've still got over 50 minutes of track time available.
He's likely waiting for the track to rubber in. There's no point wasting a set of tires on a green surface when the grip levels are going to evolve so much in the next half hour.
Greg Szabo slots into P2 with a 2:03.870, a solid opening gambit with plenty of time left on the clock.
Szabo looks comfortable early on. He's not overdriving the car, just hitting his marks and finding a rhythm before the track temp starts to climb.
Nigel Walters puts a 2:04.927 on the board, good enough for fourth place for now.
He's about a second off Szabo's pace. Walters is likely experimenting with his turn-in points right now, trying to see how much of the curb he can actually take without unsettling the car. Szabo just found over 3 seconds on that last lap to stay in P2. That's a massive jump. He must have finally found the limit on his braking markers.
James Garvok finally puts a time on the board, a 2:02.886, vaulting him straight up into P3.
Robertson's still sitting on a blank scoreboard. It's a bold strategy to wait this long, but maybe she's making a late setup tweak to find that extra 10th.
Walters is still sitting on that 2:04.927, holding on to fourth, but the gap to the leaders is starting to look significant.
He's stuck in no man's land right now. When I was out there, if the time wasn't coming, I'd pit and check the tire pressures. He might be overheating those rears.
Robert Cormack is taking his time to join the party, still without a timed lap as we approach the mid-40s. Garvok finds another second, clocking a 2:01.948, but actually drops down to P4 as the rest of the field starts to wake up.
The track is clearly getting faster. James improved his time, but he's lost ground. That tells me he needs to find a bit more aggression in the high-speed sections.
Still no sign of Jareth Hallam on the timing screens with 45 minutes remaining in the session.
He might be doing some long-run fuel checks on his outlaps. You don't always need to go for a headline time if you're worried about how the car handles a full tank.
Walters finds a huge chunk of time. A 2:00.854 pops Nigel back up into third place.
Garvok slipped to 5th now. He's going to have to respond to that lap from Walters if he wants to stay in touch with the lead group.
Jareth Hallam is certainly taking the patient approach today. Still no lap time as the clock ticks down under 44 minutes. Garvok is still holding that 2:01.948 in P5, but he's looking a little stagnant while the others find their groove.
He might be struggling with understeer. If the car isn't rotating the way he wants, he's just going to keep scrubbing speed off and killing his front tires.
We are nearly 15 minutes into this session, and Adam Tyus is still a ghost on the timing screens.
It's a gamble. Every minute he spends in the lane is a minute he's not learning how the car reacts as the fuel load drops. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself for those final runs.
Still waiting for a time from Robert Cormick. The garage doors are open, but the transponder hasn't ticked over yet. Renee Robertson finally appears on the board, and she has absolutely flown into P4 with a 2:01.376.
Talk about making an entrance. She's been sitting in the pits, watching the data, and clearly knew exactly where the time was to be found. That is a very tidy first effort.
John Bontakis is another one keeping us waiting. Still no registered time with 41 minutes to go.
It's a waiting game. Bontakis often likes to let the others clear the track so he can get a clean air run without having to navigate traffic in the mid-sector.
James Garvach is sliding down the order now. The 201.948 has him sitting in 6th as the session progresses.
He's hit a plateau. Usually, when I was in that position, it meant the track was moving away from the setup. He needs to get back in and tweak those wing angles.
Thomas Kruger Dorado smashes through the 2-minute barrier. A 159.712 puts him firmly at the top of the standings. Still nothing from John Bontakis. We're nearly 20 minutes deep and the clock is ticking down to 39.
He's cutting it fine. You need time to get the tires up to pressure and bleed them back down to the sweet spot. He's losing the chance to do that heat cycle.
Adam Tyus finally puts a lap together, a 201.044, and that's a respectable P4 for his first timed effort.
Hallam is still a no-show on the scoreboard. He's leaving it very late to get any meaningful data on his tire degradation.
Nigel Walters is holding steady in 3rd, but he hasn't improved on that 2 o'clock .854 for a while now. Jareth Hallam is really testing our patience now. Still no time recorded with under 38 minutes remaining.
He might be dealing with a technical gremlin in the garage. At this stage, you're not just losing track time, you're losing the mental rhythm of the session.
Tyus is keeping that 201.044 for now, sitting in 4th, but surely looking to bridge that gap to the sub 2-minute club. Dominic Fovargu joins the list of drivers yet to set a time. 36 minutes left for him to make his mark.
It's vital for Fovargu to get out there soon. You don't want to be doing your first representative lap when everyone else is already on their 2nd or 3rd stint.
Darren Nicole is another name we're waiting on. Clock is ticking down past the 36-minute mark.
He might be watching the live sectors of the leaders, trying to figure out which corners are giving up the most lap time before he even turns a wheel.
John Boontakis finally logs a 2:01.993, which lands him in 7th for the time being. Still no time from Dominic Fovarg, and we are well into the second half of this practice session.
He's really up against it now. Every minute in the box is a minute he's not learning the track limits. And that's going to hurt him when we get to qualifying.
Darren Nickel is still staying quiet, no time on the board, and just over 34 minutes to go.
You can't buy back time, Hal. If he has a mechanical issue or even just a small spin on his first flyer, he's going to be going into the race with almost zero data.
Jareth Hallam is still a non-starter on the timing sheets as we tick down towards the 33-minute mark.
This is getting critical. If he hasn't even bedded in a set of pads yet, he's going to be rushed, and that's when you start making silly mistakes in the braking zones.
Fovarg finally gets a lap on the board. A 2:02.780 puts him into 8th place. Nigel Walters is remaining consistent in P3, but he hasn't been able to find anything more than that 2:00.854 he said earlier.
He might be focusing on his race pace now, Hal. Those tires will be well past their peak grip, so he's likely seeing how the car behaves when it starts to get a bit loose at the rear.
Over 25 minutes gone, and Jareth Hallam still hasn't posted a representative time.
It's risky. The track grip is at its peak right now, and he's missing the window to see what the car can really do on a qualifying sim.
Renee Robertson is down to P5 now. That 2:01.376 isn't quite holding up as the others find more pace.
She needs to find about half a second to get back into the podium spots. I suspect she's struggling with some mid-corner understeer based on how early she's having to get back on the power.
James Garvock remains in 7th. The 2:01.948 is starting to look a bit lonely on the screens as we dip towards the final 30 minutes.
He's definitely searching for something. You can see him trying different lines, but if the mechanical grip isn't there, he's just going to keep sliding around that 7th place mark.
Tyus is sitting in P5. That 2:01.044 keeping him within striking distance of the frontrunners as we hit the 30-minute mark.
Garbach slips another spot to 8th. He's really struggling to find that extra gear today. He needs to find a way to stop the bleed before qualifying starts.
Dominic Fovargue finds a bit more pace with a 2:02.038, but it only nets him 9th place for now.
He's chipping away at it, but everyone else is finding time too. He needs to stop being so polite with the curbs and start using all the track if he wants to move up.
Renee Robertson is down to 6th now. That earlier lap time of 2:01.376 starting to feel a bit stale.
She's likely in the middle of a heavy fuel stint. The lap times won't look pretty, but the data she's getting on tire wear right now is worth its weight in gold for the race.
Nigel Walters has been bumped down to P4, still leaning on that 2 o'clock .854 he set a while back. Tyus is holding on to 5th, but he's got to be looking at that gap to Walters in P4 and wondering where the time is.
He's missing a bit of apex speed in the slower sections. If he can just trust the front end a little more on entry, he'll find that 10th or 2 he's looking for.
Greg Szabo is still holding a podium spot in P3 with that 2 o'clock .604, keeping the pressure on the leaders.
James Garbach is stuck in 8th. He needs to shake things up. Maybe a fresh set of boots and a low fuel run to find some confidence before this session ends.
Nigel Walters remains in P4. That 2 o'clock .854 is proving to be a very resilient lap time.
He's consistent, I'll give him that. But consistency alone won't get you a pole position. He needs to find a way to get that car to rotate quicker on the exit.
Bounty case improves. A 2:01.103 moves him up to 6th as we cross the 25-minute mark.
That's a better effort from John. He's starting to find the flow now. If he can keep this momentum going, he might just sneak into that top 5 before the flag drops.
Where did that come from? Jareth Hallam goes from no time at all straight into P2 with a blistering 159.932. Bounticus is still in P6, sitting just behind the lead pack with that 201.103.
He's got a good foundation there. Now it's about the fine-tuning, adjusting the dampers or the tire pressures to see if he can find that final half second to the leaders.
Nigel Walters is still occupying fourth, that 2 o'clock point 854 holding strong as the session enters the final 25 minutes.
He's looked very composed all session. He might not be the fastest on a single lap right now, but his sector times are incredibly tight. That's a driver who knows his limits.
David Constable-Berry puts a 201.420 on board, slotting into 9th place as we continue through the session. Tyus improves to a 2 o'clock point 957, but the competition is so fierce, he's actually dropped to 6th.
That's the nature of VVS. You find a 10th and lose a position. Adam's gonna have to dig even deeper if he wants to stay in this fight.
Szabo is still holding firm in P3, but he's got to be looking at that gap to Hallam and Dorado with a bit of concern.
Bounticus is drifting down to 8th. The midfield is incredibly tight today. A couple of tenths is the difference between hero and zero out there.
Unbelievable. We've only got 21 minutes left, and Robert Cormack still hasn't set a time. Walters is down to 5th now. That 2 o'clock point 854 finally starting to get eclipsed by the improving track conditions.
He's been out there a long time on that set of tires. I'd expect him to dive into the pit soon for some fresh rubber and a final qualifying simulation.
Hallam's 159.932 has him in 3rd place now as we enter the final 20 minutes of practice. Wait, look at the top of the board. Dominic Fovargu goes fastest with a 159.390. What a lap!
Tyus is falling back to 7th. That 2 o'clock .957 was a good effort, but the bar has just been raised significantly by Fauvargue.
Hallam's 1:59.932 is still holding on to P3 as we approach the final 15 minutes.
He's got the pace, but Fauvargue has just moved the goalposts. Jareth needs to find another half second if he wants to reclaim that top spot.
Tyus responds. A 2 o'clock .552 jumps him back up into 4th place.
Great resilience from Adam. He didn't panic when he dropped down the order, he just went back out and found the time. That's the sign of a very focused driver.
Walters improves slightly with a 2 o'clock .824, but it only lands him in 6th place. David Constable-Barry is on a charge. A 2 o'clock .227 moves him right up into 4th place.
He's found a second from somewhere. That's a huge improvement. He must have nailed the final sector to make that kind of jump. Sabo is slipping down the order, now in 6th. He's going to need a big lap in these final 15 minutes to get back into the conversation at the front.
Tyus is back in 6th now. That 2 o'clock .552 just isn't enough as the pace intensifies.
It's like a game of musical chairs out there, Hal. Every time you think you've found a safe spot, someone else finds a few hundredths and bumps you down.
Fauvargue is still sitting pretty at the top with that 1:59.390 as we head into the final 16 minutes of the session.
He's laid down a serious marker. Breaking into the 59s is one thing, but to be a few tenths clear of the pack suggests he's found a setup that's really working in the technical sections.
Renee Robertson finds an improvement with a 2 o'clock .840, but she's still languishing in 8th place.
The midfield is just brutal today. She's over a second off Fauvargue's pace, which is a massive mountain to climb with only 15 minutes left.
Hallam improves his time to a 1:59.769, but he's actually dropped to 4th.
This session is evolving so fast. Jareth found a couple of tenths and lost ground. That just shows you the level of competition we've got here today.
Tyus breaks into the 159S. A 159.898 moves him up to 5th place. Fovarg is still the man to beat, holding that 159.390 as we enter the final 14 minutes.
He's in the box right now, probably watching the live timing with his arms crossed. He knows he set a great lap, but in this field, no lead is ever safe.
Robertson remains in 8th, her 2 o'clock point 840, keeping her at the back of the lead group.
She needs to find a way to get the car to bite on entry. She's losing time in the slow-speed corners, where the car just seems a bit lazy.
Darren Nickel is finally on the board with a 2:02.141, sitting in 11th place.
Better late than never, I suppose. But he's got a lot of work to do in these final 13 minutes to bridge that gap to the top 10.
Walters with a huge leap. A 159.518 sends Nigel straight into P2, just a 10th off the lead.
Tyus is holding P5. He's in that 159 bracket now, but he's still got nearly 4/10 to find if he wants to challenge Walters and Fovarg.
Garvok finds an improvement, a 2 o'clock point 950, but it's only good enough for 9th place today. Hallam is still 4th, that 159.769, keeping him in the mix as we approach the final 10 minutes.
He's consistent, but consistency isn't enough to catch Fovarg right now. He needs to find that extra bit of bravery in the high-speed kinks.
Tyus is sitting in 5th as we enter the final 10 minutes of the session, still searching for more pace. Just over 10 minutes left for Darren Nickel to find something more than that 2:02.141. He's currently languishing outside the top 10.
He's got no time for finesse now. He needs to start attacking the braking zones and really throwing that car into the apex if he wants to move up the grid.
Rex Szabo has tumbled down to 8th place, still unable to improve on his 2 o'clock .604.
It's frustrating when you hit a wall like that. He's likely chasing the setup, but with less than 10 minutes to go, he might just have to drive around the problems he's got.
Constable Barry is down to 6 now. That 2 o'clock .227 just isn't quite enough to stay in the top 5. Renee Robertson finds a nice chunk of time. A 2 o'clock .403 moves her up to 7th place.
That's a big step forward. She's finally getting that front end to bite. If she can carry that momentum into the next few laps, she could be a real threat in qualifying.
Hallam is still holding on to 4th as the clock ticks down to the final 8 minutes.
He looks settled. He's not making many mistakes, but he's just missing that final bit of commitment through the fastest section of the track to challenge the top 3.
Sabo is still stuck in 8th. That 2 o'clock .604 is beginning to feel like his ceiling for this session.
He's struggling for traction on the exits. Every time he gets on the power, the rear is just washing out on him. That's a clear sign that his rear tires are starting to give up the ghost.
Nickel is still parked in 11th place. He really needs to find a way to break into the top 10 before the checkered flag.
He's got time for about 3 more flyers. He needs to forget about the setup now and just drive the wheels off that thing if he wants to gain any positions.
Walters is still holding that 2nd spot, just a 10th off Fauvargue's pace as we enter the final 6 minutes.
He's keeping Fauvargue honest. Nigel is excellent at finding those last few hundredths when the track is at its grippiest, so don't count him out for the top spot just yet. Six minutes left, and Sabo is still in 8th. He's got to find something soon, otherwise he's going into qualifying with a lot of questions and not many answers.
Robertson is still in P7 with that 2 o'clock .403, and time is rapidly disappearing for a final push.
She's hanging on to the coattails of the leaders, but she's just missing that final bit of send into the heavy braking zones to really make a move.
Constable Barry has slipped to 7th now, even with that very respectable 2 o'clock .227.
It's just so tight in that midfield. One small mistake in a single corner and you've lost 3 grid spots. David's going to have to be absolutely perfect on his final run.
Constable Barry is down to 7th now. That 2-minute dead point 2 isn't quite the safety net it was 5 minutes ago.
The track is at its absolute fastest right now. If he's got one fresh set of tires left in the allocation, now is the time to bolt them on and go for broke.
Cormac finally gets a time on the boards, but a 2:08.260 puts him at the tail end of the field in P13.
That's purely a banker lap. He's just making sure the transponder works and getting his eyes in. But he's got a mountain to climb with only 4 minutes left.
Under 4 minutes on the clock, and Constable Barry is still looking for an answer from P7.
He's likely on his final outlap now. He needs to nail the tire prep. Get those pressures exactly right, because he's only going to get one more shot at this.
Walters is still the closest challenger to the top spot, holding P2 as we enter the final 3 minutes.
He's got the pace, but he's also playing a bit of a psychological game here. Staying in P2 tells Fauvargue he's right there waiting for any slip-up.
Elham's dropped down to 5th now. That 1:59.769 is being challenged as the session reaches its climax.
He's still in the hunt. Jareth is a driver who can always find a bit more in the final moments. I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump back onto the podium before the flag drops.
Two minutes left for Constable Barry to make something happen from 7th place.
This is it. The final roll of the dice. He's going to have to take some big risks over the curbs if he wants to see his name move up that timing screen.
Cormac improved slightly to a 2:07.898, but he's still firmly in P13 with less than 2 minutes remaining.
He's struggling for pace, there's no two ways about it. He might be carrying a bit of damage, or just hasn't found the rhythm of this track yet.
Robert Cormac finds a small improvement, but it doesn't change the story. He's still sitting in P13 with time running out.
He's clearly having a tough session. Sometimes you just can't get the car into that sweet spot, and then you're just fighting it every single corner. It's a lonely place to be.
Chris Stokes comes from nowhere to snatch the top spot with a 1:59.019. That is an incredible lap.
What a flyer! He's just put nearly 4/10 on the rest of the field with a minute to go. That is a massive statement of intent for qualifying.
Incredible! Chris Stokes wait until the absolute death to drop a 1:59.019 and move into P1.
That is how you do it. He's been lurking all session and then just uncorked a monster of a lap. Everyone else is going to be scratching their heads looking at that sector data.
And David Constable Barry answers back. A 1:59.354 jumps him all the way to P2 with just 38 seconds left.
Where was he hiding that pace? That's a huge jump at the very end. He's found nearly a second on his final run. Unreal composure under pressure.
20 seconds on the clock, and it looks like Chris Stokes has this session in his pocket with that 1:59.019.
Constable Barry is going to finish the session in P2. That late lap heroics has given him a massive boost, heading into the business end of the weekend.
Tyus manages to find a 1:59.780, but with everyone else finding time at the death, he's actually slipped to 7th place.
Nicole is really in the weeds here, down in 12th. He hasn't improved on that 202.141, and with a minute left, he's running out of road.
Chris Stokes has absolutely demolished the timing sheets with that 1:59.019, sitting comfortably in P1 as we approach the final minute. Let's get this qualifying session underway here at Brasilia Normal. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. It looks like Baldylocks is getting ready to make their move. They're taking their time to warm up those tires and get everything just right.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Chris can deliver.
Five minutes on the clock, and Dominic Fovarg is still sitting in the garage while the rest of the field burns fuel.
He needs to get moving. Leaving it this late puts immense pressure on that single outlap to get the tires up to temperature.
Dorado is cutting it fine here. Less than 5 minutes to go, and his name is still at the bottom of the timing screen without a representative lap.
Robertson is playing a dangerous game with the clock. If there is a yellow flag or a traffic jam in the final sector, he is going to find himself right at the back of the grid.
TikTok for Constable Barry. He is watching the session slip away, and he hasn't even posted a banker lap yet.
Constable Barry finally hooks one up. Straight into P2 with a 2-minute flat. It is a solid banker, but he will be kicking himself for that quarter of a second gap to the top.
Keep an eye on Walters. He is nearly 2/10 up on his best time as he works through this lap.
He is finding grip where others are losing it. If he keeps this momentum through the final complex, that P4 is going to turn into a front row start.
Stokes is on absolute fire, found another 10th.5 over his own pole time.
He is dancing with the limit now. When you are already fastest and still finding time, you are in that rare zone where the car just feels like an extension of your own body.
Constable Barry is on a flyer, over a quarter of a second up on his personal best, and desperate to claw back some positions before the flag drops.
Stokes isn't backing off, even with pole in his pocket. He's a 10th up on his own benchmark, really trying to put this session out of reach for everyone else.
Dorado is finding massive time here, nearly 4/10 up as the clock hits 0.
This is the final roll of the dice. He is absolutely hammering the curbs to bridge that gap to Stokes.
Stokes is squeezing every last drop out of that car, 0.15 quicker as he approaches the line for the final time.
Look at the delta for Tyus, half a second up on his best. If he holds his nerve through these last few corners, we could see a massive shakeup at the top of the order.
Boutakis is absolutely obliterating his previous time, over 2 seconds up as he charges toward the line.
He must have had a nightmare on that first flyer. This is the real pace we expected from him. He is going to rocket up the standings if he keeps it together.
Nickel is finding massive chunks of time out there, 0.7 up on his best as he hits the final sector.
He's really found his rhythm. That's the difference between tentatively feeling out the track and actually attacking the apexes.
Cormac is on a mission, carving over 2.5 seconds off his personal best with a minute left to go.
Cormac finds 3 seconds, but it's not enough to move the needle. He's still stuck in 13th, and that tells you everything about how high the bar is today.
Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it. On.
Pole position gives Chris Stokes a strategic edge.
With everyone chasing, Chris Stokes can't afford to relax.
Thomas Kruger Dorado looking focused on the front row. That Montana is sitting right in the eye of the storm in P2. At third, we have the one and only Adam Tyus.
But they're going to have to be quick out of the blocks if they want to keep up with the top performers.
Jareth Hallam starts from 4th, right on the heels of the leaders, and looking to make life difficult for the front row.
He is in a prime spot. Starting on the second row gives you a perfect view of the leaders, braking points, and Jareth will be waiting for any hint of a mistake.
Renee Robertson lines up in 5th, right in the heart of that mid-pack scrap where things get narrow very quickly.
P5 is a tricky spot. You have to be aggressive enough to hold your line, but smart enough not to get caught in a sandwich when the pack bunches up at the apex.
David Constable Barry slots into 7th, right in the thick of it, and looking for a gap the moment those lights go out. Dominic Fovarg rounds out the 4th row, a big ask from P8, but he's a driver who knows how to pick his battles.
In these trucks, starting mid-pack means you are right in the turbulence. Dominic needs to get those tires up to temperature fast, or he will be vulnerable on the opening lap.
Greg Sabo is buried back in 10th, and as our top AM class driver in this group, he has got a massive job on his hands to keep pace with the Pro-Am pack. John Buntakis brings the Greek flag to the 11th spot on the grid, looking to make up ground from the 6th row.
He is starting right in the danger zone. From back there, you are reacting to the chain reaction of the cars ahead, so his peripheral vision needs to be spot on today.
Darren Nickel has a mountain to climb from P12, but he is never one to shy away from a scrap in that Montana.
Starting deep in the field like this, you have to be so careful with the cold brakes. If he misses his marker by an inch, he is going into the back of someone.
Green flag! The engines roar to life and the field screams away from the line. Chris Stokes nails the launch and holds on to the lead. Exactly the start he needed to dictate the pace.
Clean getaway for the pole sitter. When you have got clear air in front of you, it is all about hitting your marks and breaking that slipstream early.
Dorado has absolutely plummeted from the front row all the way down to 10th in the opening exchanges.
Something went badly wrong there. Whether it was wheel spin off the line or he got boxed in, Thomas is now staring at a lot of tailgates he shouldn't be seeing.
Thomas Kruger Dorado has had a nightmare start, dropping like a stone from the front row right down to P10. Stokes has completely lost his advantage, sliding from the lead all the way down to 4th on this opening lap. The slide continues for Thomas Kruger Dorado. He is falling through the field and finds himself back in 11th. Dorado's race is unraveling before our eyes. He has dropped nearly 10 places since the lights went out.
He looks like he is standing still out there. In my experience, once you lose your rhythm on lap 1, it is incredibly hard to stop the bleeding while everyone else is on the attack.
Adam Tyus is right in the wheel tracks of David Constable-Berry now, just 4/10ths between them as they fight for 6th. Jareth Hallam is glued to the back of Chris Stokes, only 2/10ths in it as he looks to reclaim a podium spot.
He is smelling blood. With 17 minutes left on the clock, Jareth knows if he can force a mistake here, he can settle into a rhythm and chase down the leaders.
Stokes has found a bit of breathing room, stretching that gap over Hallam out to half a second.
Chris is using the whole track now, just breaking that immediate slipstream threat. Jareth needs to find a better exit if he wants to stay in the hunt.
Thomas Kruger Dorado is trying to mount a comeback, sitting just 4/10ths behind James Garvach as he fights to recover into the top 8.
Dorado is driving angry now. You can see it in how he is attacking the curves. He needs to keep his head though, because Garvach is a master at placing his truck exactly where you don't want it to be.
Dorado makes the move stick. He climbs up to 8th and puts over half a second between himself and Garvach.
That was clinical. He saw the gap, took it, and immediately pulled away. That is exactly how you stop a mid-race slump. Just get your elbows out and take the place back.
Adam Tyus is absolutely hounding David Constable-Berry. 1/10 of a second. You couldn't fit a cigarette paper between them.
He is looking for any opening. At this distance, Adam has seen nothing but Constable-Berry's tailgate, waiting for that one tiny slip in braking to dive down the inside.
Look at this. Dominic Fovarg is side by side with Darren Nickel. There is literally no gap between them as they battle for 10th.
This is proper wheel-to-wheel stuff. When you are that close, you are relying on trust as much as talent. One wrong twitch, and they are both going for a ride in the grass.
Dominic Fovarg gets the job done. He edges ahead of Nickel to take 10th, but it is far from over with only 2/10ths in it. Tyus is still right there, breathing down the neck of David Constable-Berry as they cross the line with a fresh personal best of 2 minutes flat. Adam Tyus finally finds a way through. He secures 6th place, leaving Constable Barry to look for a way back past. It has been a breathless start to this one, hasn't it? The mid-pack is looking like a proper hornet's nest today.
It really is. These Copa Montana trucks are so heavy and high-sided, you really feel the weight transfer when you are trying to be aggressive through the corners.
We saw that with Dorado early on. 1 minute you are on the front row, the next you are being swallowed up by the pack. It is unforgiving.
I have been there. You miss one apex on lap 1, and it is like a door opening. Everyone just pours through. It takes a massive mental effort to stop that slide.
And yet, we are seeing guys like Adam Tyus really thrive in the chaos. He is picking people off one by one.
That is the trick. You have to be patient. These races aren't won in the first 5 minutes, but they can certainly be lost if you overstep the mark on cold tires.
Adam Tyus is on a mission. He has reeled in Greg Szabo and is looking to snatch 5th place with less than a 10th between them.
He is using that momentum perfectly. Szabo is our leading AM driver, but Tyus is making that Pro-Am experience count, putting the nose of that Montana exactly where it hurts.
Szabo manages to break the toe for now, stretching the gap back out to 6/10 and giving himself some much-needed room to breathe. David Constable Barry is right back on the attack, hounding the rear bumper of Adam Tyus with only a 1/10 of a second in it. Constable Barry snatches the position back. He moves into 6th and immediately puts nearly half a second of daylight between him and Tyus. Jareth Hallam is hunting for P2. He's whittled the gap to Renee Robertson down to just 2/10 after a blistering personal best.
He's really leaned on the tires to get there. Jareth is right in the slipstream, waiting to see if Renee blinks first under the pressure.
Robertson manages to respond to the threat, finding some pace to pull the gap out to 6/10 and keep Hallam at arm's length. Adam Tyus is under fire now, with Thomas Kruger Dorado closing in to within half a second of that 7th place spot. Wait, something's happened to Tyus. Dorado has blown past him into 7th and already checked out with a 2.5 second lead.
That gap opened up far too quickly for a standard overtake. Adam must have had a massive moment, maybe a wide line or a slide, that just killed his momentum.
David Constable Barry is locking onto the back of Greg Szabo, just 3/10 separating 6th from 5th as we head into the second half of this session. Szabo is holding firm for now, managing that 4/10 gap to keep Constable Barry from finding a way past. It is fascinating to see how the track is evolving. These Montana trucks really start to move around once the fuel load lightens up.
You can see them fighting the steering wheel more. It is a physical battle. When those rear tires start to go, it is like driving on ice through the faster sections.
We have seen plenty of reshuffling in that mid-pack too. Dorado's recovery has been steady, but man, he had to work for every inch of it.
That is the thing about this series. There is no such thing as an easy overtake. You have to really commit and hope the other driver is seeing the same gap you are.
And the concentration levels required are just immense, especially with these gaps being so tight for lap after lap.
I remember races where I would forget to breathe for half a lap because the guy behind was so close. One tiny lockup and your whole race can evaporate.
Nigel Walters is stalking Jareth Hallam for the final podium spot, closing that gap to 4/10 with 10 minutes remaining. Nigel Walters has hit trouble. He's fallen back to 6th, and the podium positions are suddenly 5 seconds up the road. The slide continues for Walters. He has lost another place and is now sitting in 7th.
He is struggling to get the truck settled. Once you have a big moment and the tires get dirty, you are a sitting duck for the next few corners.
Dominic Fovarg is keeping James Garvock honest, half a second back and pushing hard after setting his personal best lap of the race. Fovarg picks up a spot to move into ninth, now setting his sights on the next target, just 0.6 ahead.
He is picking his moments well. He isn't forcing it, just letting the race come to him and capitalizing when the door is left ajar.
Dorado is flying. He is the first driver into the 159S, and he is right on the back of Constable Barry for fourth.
That is a massive statement of intent. When you start seeing those lap times tumble, it gives you such a psychological boost. He is hunting in packs now.
Dorado makes it look easy. He sweeps past into fourth, putting the disappointment of the start well and truly behind him. Wait, Constable Barry has fought back. He retakes fourth and puts over half a second back between himself and Dorado.
This is a proper seesaw battle. You can tell neither of these two is willing to concede an inch. They are giving us a masterclass in defensive positioning.
Dorado is staying within striking distance of Constable Barry, although that gap has crept up to 0.8 of a second now.
He needs to be careful not to overheat those front tires in the dirty air. If he pushes too hard too early, he won't have anything left for a move at the end.
Dorado manages to shave a 10th off that lead, keeping the pressure firmly on Constable Barry's rear bumper.
It is all about the exits now. If Thomas can just get a better run out of the final turn, he is going to have a massive slipstream advantage down the straight.
Fovarg is absolutely hounding Garvok for 8th. It is just 0.2 now as we approach the business end of the race.
This is the closest battle on track right now. Dominic is looking left, looking right, trying to spook James into a mistake.
Thomas Kruger Dorado is digging deep, holding that 7/10 gap to Constable Barry as they look for every bit of grip available. Constable Barry is just starting to edge away again, stretching that cushion to 0.8 of a second. Garvok is in the hunt, sitting just 0.3 behind Dominic Fovarg in a fierce battle for 8th place. Fovarg manages to pull a bit of a gap, extending his lead over Garvok to 0.7.
Dominic is putting together some very tidy defensive lines. He's making that Montana as wide as possible, forcing James to take the long way around.
Dorado is still locked onto the back of Constable Barry, maintaining that 0.7 gap as the clock ticks down to the final 6 minutes.
This is a game of high-speed chess. Neither driver wants to be the first to blink, but with the time running out, Thomas is going to have to make a move soon.
Dorado is nibbling away at that lead, bringing the gap down to 0.6 now.
He is definitely gaining in the braking zones. If he can keep this up, he will be in a position to lunge before the lap is out.
Garvok is trying to bridge that 0.7 gap to Fovarg, but the clock is starting to become a factor with only 5 minutes left.
He is pushing that truck to the absolute limit. You can see it squirming under braking as he tries to find those extra tenths to get into the DRS zone.
Dorado is relentless, keeping that 0.6 gap as he pushes Constable Barry to the limit with another sub-2-minute lap. Dorado is right on him. He slashed that gap to just 0.2 and is looking to make his move.
This is it. He has set this up beautifully over the last few laps. Now he just needs to keep it clean and pick his spot.
Garbach has lost ground. The gap to Fovarg has blown out to a second and a half, despite James setting a personal best.
Fovarg must be having an absolute flyer of a lap. When you are pushing that hard and the guy ahead is still pulling away, it can be really demoralizing from the cockpit.
Garbach is struggling to make an impression now. That 1.5 second gap to Fovarg is holding steady as we head into the final stages. Dorado is still all over the back of Constable Barry, with just 0.3 of a second separating them in this fight for fourth.
He is waiting for David to miss a gear or go just an inch wide. At this pace, the slightest error is going to be the difference between fourth and fifth.
Adam Tyus is trying to reel in Nigel Walters, sitting 1.3 seconds back after posting a lightning-fast 2-minute dead. Tyus is making inroads. He's brought that gap down to exactly 1 second as he hunts down Walters for sixth.
He is in the zone now. When you see that gap coming down 10th by 10th, it is like a carrot on a stick. You just keep pushing harder and harder.
Dorado has found even more pace. A 1 minute 59 seconds and 7 milliseconds, and he is virtually on the bumper of Constable Barry.
This is incredible driving from Thomas. To find that kind of time this late in the race, with the tires as hot as they must be, is just phenomenal.
Tyus is really closing in now. He's got that gap to Walters down to 0.7 after another personal best lap. Tyus is picking up even more time. He's just 0.6 behind Walters now as the tension continues to build. Dorado has dropped back slightly, the gap to Constable Barry opening up to 0.6 again.
He might have pushed those tires a bit too hard on that last lap. He needs to regroup and find his rhythm again if he wants to make one final charge.
Dorado responds. He's back within 0.4 of Constable Barry. This battle is far from over.
This is a real tug of war. Every time David thinks he has done enough, Thomas just claws his way back into the fight.
Nigel Walters is under massive pressure from Adam Tyus, with only half a second between them as we approach the final minutes.
Walters is going to have to be very smart here. He needs to focus on his own lines and not spend too much time looking in his mirrors, or he'll just invite the overtake.
Dorado is still hunting Constable Barry for fourth, maintaining that 0.4 gap as they head into the penultimate stages.
The lap times are starting to drift a bit now as the tires go off, but the intensity hasn't dropped for a second. This is going to be a grandstand finish.
Constable Barry has found another gear, stretching the gap to 0.7 over Dorado.
David is driving a very disciplined race. He knows exactly where his truck is strongest, and he is using every bit of the road to keep Thomas at bay.
Renee Robertson is in a lonely second place right now, 1.8 seconds behind the leader Chris Stokes as we enter the closing laps. Robertson has shaved 1/10 off the lead, but with the gap still at 1.7 seconds. He's going to need something special to catch Stokes now.
Stokes is in full control. He is managing that gap perfectly, doing just enough to stay out of reach, without taking any unnecessary risks.
Adam Tyus is absolutely flying. He's just hit a 1 minute, 59 seconds and 3 milliseconds, and he is right on the tail of Nigel Walters for 6th.
That is a massive lap. He is finding grip where no one else can. Walters has got to be feeling the heat now that Tyus' truck is filling his mirrors.
Dorado is back within 3/10 of Constable Barry. This battle for 4th is refusing to settle down.
Every time we think it's over, Thomas just finds another bit of pace. He's like a terrier, he just won't let go of that 4th place.
He's right there. Dorado is just a 10th behind Constable Barry. We are going to see a move any second now.
He is perfectly placed for the slipstream. If he can just stay tucked in until the last possible moment, he'll have him under braking.
Adam Tyus is breathing down the neck of Nigel Walters, only 2/10 in it as they hammer into lap 10.
Nigel is defending for his life here. Tyus has the momentum, but Walters is making that Montana as wide as a house to keep him back.
Tyus has done it. He finds the gap, makes the move, and snatches 6th place away from Walters.
Beautifully timed. He waited for Walters to slightly over-rotate the truck, then just undercut him on the exit. Pure class from Adam Tyus.
Thomas Kruger Dorado is still absolutely glued to Constable Barry. 3/10 the gap in this relentless pursuit of 4th.
He's been staring at that same bumper for laps now. The mental fatigue of trying to find an opening while staying mistake-free is massive at this stage.
Walters isn't giving up yet. He's staying within 4/10 of Tyus as he tries to reclaim that 6th place spot. Chris Stokes enters the final sector, 20 seconds from glory, with a 1.4-second cushion over Robertson.
He just needs to keep it tidy now. No heroics, just guide that truck home to the checkered flag. He's earned this one today.
Chris Stokes takes the checkered flag, a dominant lights-to-flag victory for the pole sitter here in VVS.
Stellar drive. He kept his cool when the pressure was on early and never let the lead slip. That is exactly how you manage a championship-caliber race.
Renee Robertson brings it home for a brilliant 2nd place, a massive climb from P5 on the grid. Jareth Hallam secures the final step on the podium, finishing a solid 3rd after a hard-fought race. Constable Barry holds on for 4th, narrowly beating Dorado, while Tyus and Walters follow them across the line to round out the top 7.
Dorado will be kicking himself after that recovery drive, but top 5 is still great points. And what a battle between Tyus and Walters right to the end.
Dominic Fauvarguet, James Garvach, and Darren Nickel complete the top 10, surviving a chaotic race through the midfield. And John Bontakis crosses the line in 11th, bringing a tough race to a close. Greg Szabo finishes in 12th, a disappointing result after showing some real pace early on.
He really struggled to keep that Montana underneath him in the closing stages. It's a tough lesson in tire management, but he'll be back stronger.
Robert Cormack takes the 13th spot as the final few trucks trickle across the line. Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it. On.
Pole position, a prime spot for Robert Cormack to attack.
The race is long. Robert Cormack can't celebrate yet.
Greg Sabo is sitting pretty on the front row, putting that Chevy Montana exactly where it needs to be.
Starting P2 as an AM is a massive statement. He's got the pace. Now he just needs to survive the lunge into turn 1 without frying those rear tires.
Right behind Sabo, it's John Boontakis. An all-AM second and third on the grid is going to make for a very spicy start.
Nickel rounds out that second row. He's usually quite measured, but being surrounded by other AM drivers in these Montana trucks means he won't be able to just sit back and wait for the race to come to him.
Dominic Fovarg starts from 6th. He's got a bit of work to do from the third row if he wants to get among those AM drivers ahead.
He's the first of the Pro-Am runners we're looking at, and usually that experience pays off in the second half of the stint. Fovarg will be banking on his tire management to pick those guys off one by one.
Adam Tyus is tucked away in 8th, but don't let that fool you. He's got plenty of car underneath him to move forward.
Mid-pack in a Montana is the danger zone. Tyus needs to stay out of the door banging and find some clean air if he wants to use that English grit to climb the order.
Dorado sits in 9th, looking to move that British flag Chevy up the field.
Thomas knows the drill. He's starting right in the thick of it, and in my experience, P9 is where you either find a gap or find a bumper. He'll be hoping for the former. Hallam is starting deep in the pack, and in these trucks, that means a lot of spray and a lot of rubbing. He's got to be clinical on the brakes early on.
Renee Robertson lines up in 12th, looking at a lot of tailgates between him and the podium.
It's a long way back, but Renee is a Pro-Am for a reason. He won't panic. He'll be waiting for the drivers ahead to start fighting and burning up their rubber before he makes his move.
Green flags! The engines scream as they launch off the line. A wall of Chevy trucks charging toward the first corner.
Everyone's fighting for the same piece of tarmac. You can see the suspension loading up as they jostle for position. This is where championships are won or lost.
Cormack gets the launch he needed, holding his nerve in that P1 spot through the opening chaos. Tough break for James Garbuck. He's dropped a place and finds himself down in 6th.
He looked a bit hesitant on the brakes there. On a cold lap 1, if you leave the door open even a crack, someone is going to shove a nose in.
Yellow flag, safety cars out.
Yellow flags everywhere. The safety car is being deployed, and that's going to bunch this field right back up.
Someone's had a massive shunt back there. When you see the safety car this early, you know there's significant debris on the circuit.
Total heartbreaker for the leaders who just built a gap. All that hard work is gone in an instant.
Now the mental game starts. I used to hate this. Trying to keep heat in the tires and brakes while crawling along, wondering if your car is going to hook up on the restart.
How do racing drivers like yourself back in the day, Sky, train themselves to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation, Hal. Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their mental endurance for a race.
Full course yellow, the safety car is heading out to pick up the pack. We've got carbon fiber and bodywork scattered across the track.
That looked like a heavy one. The drivers will be straight on the radio asking about the cleanup time while they try to snake the cars to keep some temperature in those tires.
It's a complete reset. All those hard-earned gaps have just evaporated.
This is where you see who's got the discipline. It's so easy to switch off behind the safety car, but if you let your brake pressures drop too much here, you're a sitting duck when we go green again.
It's a tense wait behind the safety car, but looking at that opening lap, these Montana trucks are proving to be a handful to keep pointed straight.
They're massive machines with a lot of weight transfer. When I was racing trucks, you really had to respect the pitch and roll, otherwise the back end just overtakes the front before you can blink.
Sabo and Bantakis were really aggressive at the start. It's interesting seeing the AM drivers taking it to the Pro-Ams right out of the gate.
The hunger in the AM class is something else. They don't have that points management mindset yet. They just see a gap and go for it. Sometimes it's brilliant. Sometimes it ends with us looking at a yellow flag.
It does make me wonder if we'll see some different strategies emerge now. Does this neutralized period help someone like Robertson, who was buried in 12th?
Absolutely. It saves fuel, it saves tires, and most importantly, it gives him a front row seat to the back of the leaders again. This race is far from over.
The flashing lights are still out there, dictated by the pace of the safety car as the marshals work double time to clear that wreckage.
It's agonizing in the cockpit. You're physically tense, your eyes are darting to the gauges, and every second you spend at these speeds, your tire pressures are falling off a cliff.
As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves.
Absolutely. They're the unsung heroes of the racing world. But you know what they say? Behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
Safety car in this lap.
The lights are off on top of the safety car. It's peeling into the pits, and Cormac is in control of the field now.
Look at the jump Robertson made. He surged all the way to 4th, and Stokes is right on his bumper trying to reclaim that ground. Only 7/10 between them now.
Adam Tyus has put himself right in the mix for a podium, hovering just half a second behind Bantakis.
He's smelling blood. With 15 minutes and a lap to go, Tyus doesn't need to dive bomb yet, but staying within that 5/10 window puts immense pressure on John's mirrors.
Robertson is holding on to 4th for dear life, but Chris Stokes is looming large in his rear view. The gap down to just 4/10.
Get ready, safety car's clear. Green, 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 let's go.
Here. He's chopped that gap in half. He's within sniffing distance of Robertson's slipstream now.
Wait, what happened to Cormac? The leader has plummeted to 10th, and he's now crawling all over Constable Barry's bumper trying to salvage his race. Cormac is losing touch. That gap to Constable Barry has blown out to over a second in what feels like a heartbeat.
He's struggling. Whether it's flat-spotted tires or just the mental toll of dropping 9 places, Robert has lost that rhythm he had at the front of the pack.
Fovarg is glued to the back of Garvok. 0.2 of a second is all that separates 8th from 7th as they hammer through the second lap.
He's really hustling that Montana through the corners. Dominic is looking for any opportunity to pull the trigger and get past James before the leaders disappear.
Fovarg gets the job done. He moves up into 7th, but Garvok isn't letting him breathe, staying right in the slipstream.
Beautifully executed over-under move there. Fovarg used the mid-corner rotation perfectly, but James is clearly fuming and looking to return the favor immediately.
David Constable-Berry is the next man in line, smelling blood as he sits just 3/10 behind Garbach's rear bumper. He's closing. Constable-Berry has whittled that gap down to almost nothing.
He's close enough to see what Garbach is having for lunch. If James doesn't cover the inside line here, David is going to have a serious look at taking 8th place away.
Greg Szabo is absolutely flying, hunting down Stokes for the final podium spot with a gap of only 2/10. Stokes has actually moved up into second place now, and while Szabo is still in fourth, the distance between them has stretched out slightly to half a second.
The battle at the front is shifting. Stokes finding a way into P2 means Szabo has to work even harder now to bridge that gap if he wants a trophy today.
Renee Robertson is holding steady in third, but Greg Szabo is still right there, just 3/10 back and waiting for a mistake. Stokes is all over the back of the leader. Adam Tyus has a face full of Chris's Chevy in his mirrors.
2/10 is absolutely nothing in these trucks. Tyus is going to have to get very wide because Stokes is looking for any opportunity to dive down the inside.
New leader, Chris Stokes makes the move and seizes the top spot from Tyus.
0 seconds between them. They are practically nose to tail. That was a textbook pass from Stokes, but Adam isn't going away quietly.
Look at the way the drivers are hugging those corners. It's like they're on rails.
Speaking of rails, did you know that the first racetrack was built on a railway in 1896? I bet those drivers were chugging along.
Ha ha, I bet they were. But things have come a long way since then, haven't they?
Definitely. It's amazing to think about the technology that goes into these cars now. I mean, they have more computing power than some countries.
Tyus is keeping the pressure on, refusing to let Stokes break away at the front with only 2/10 separating the pair. Tyus punches back. He's reclaimed the lead, but it is a dead heat as they cross the timing line. Jareth Hallam is making moves. He's currently fourth and closing in on Robertson's podium spot.
He's the first driver we've seen dip into the sub-2-minute bracket this lap. That's serious pace from Jareth. Renee better start checking his 6. Robertson has managed to breathe just a little bit, stretching that gap back out to half a second, but Hallam is still very much in this fight.
Constable-Berry is stalking Bountakis for 7th, keeping that gap to a tantalizing 3/10 of a second.
Stalemate between these two for now. The gap remains at 3/10 as they push each other to the limit.
Fovarg is putting the squeeze on Greg Szabo, hovering just 3/10 back as we tick down under 9 minutes to go. He's virtually under the rear wing now. Fovarg is closed right up on Szabo, searching for a way into 5th. Robertson has fought his way back toward the front. He's currently in 3rd and closing on Tyus for 2nd.
Tyus will be feeling that pressure. Robertson's last lap was a heater, and if he can keep this momentum, that podium is going to change flavor very soon.
Tyus has put some breathing room between himself and Robertson, with the gap opening up to over a second. Vovarg is still hounding Szabo. He's just 2/10 behind and looking for any mistake from the Italian.
This is a classic game of chicken. Dominic is trying to force Szabo into a deep braking zone error, but Greg is holding his line remarkably well under this sort of heat.
Vovarg makes the pass stick. He moves into 5th place, but Szabo is clinging to his bumper just 2/10 behind. Hallam is within striking distance of Robertson for that final podium spot, trailing by a mere 2/10. Robertson manages to keep Hallam at bay for now, with the gap holding steady at 3/10 of a second.
Every time Jareth looks like he's going to dive, Renee covers it perfectly. It's a defensive masterclass right now, but it's costing them both time to the leaders.
Dorado is locked in a battle with Walters for 10th place, with only 2/10 between the pair.
Thomas knows he's got more pace than this, but Walters is placing that truck like a mobile roadblock. He needs to find a way through before he runs out of laps.
Walters has managed to stretch the lead slightly, pulling half a second clear of Dorado. Constable Barry has clawed his way into 7th and is now right on Robertson's heels.
Robertson has clearly lost some momentum, and David is pouncing. That 3/10 gap is going to evaporate if Renee doesn't find some pace quickly. Stalemate in this battle for 6th. The gap is locked at 3/10 as they push into the final minutes.
Dorado is still staring at the tailgate of Walters, but that gap is stabilized at half a second.
He's struggling to get the drive out of the corners. If Thomas can't find a way to stop that slide on the exit, he's going to be stuck in Nigel's dirty air for the rest of the afternoon.
Robertson is holding on to 6th, but he's dropped back from Szabo, with the gap now at half a second. Wait, Renee is fighting back. He's reeled Szabo in and slashed that gap down to just 2/10. And there it is. Robertson takes 5th from Szabo, but the Italian is glued to his bumper as they scream down the straight. Dorado is still hunting Walters for that final top 10 spot, closing the gap slightly to 4/10 of a second. Dorado makes it through. He grabs 10th place from Walters, but they are absolutely side by side as they fight for the line. Walters fights back. He's reclaimed 10th place, leaving Dorado trailing by 3/10 once again. Robertson is under massive pressure from Constable Barry. There is absolutely nothing between them as they battle for 6th. Constable Barry makes the move stick. Robertson drops to 7th, and he's already 3/10 back from David's bumper.
He just couldn't hold that tight line. When you're struggling for grip, those defensive moves become so much harder. David timed that perfectly to take 6th place away.
Greg Szabo is hounding Constable Barry for 5th. Only 2/10 in it as we head deep into the final stages.
Szabo is driving like a man possessed. He's taking a lot of curb to stay close, and if he gets a good run out of the final sector, we might see another lead change in this pack. Szabo's lost ground. He's fallen back to 7th, and the gap to Constable Barry has opened up to nearly a second.
Robertson is holding on to 6th place for now, but Sabo is right there, just 2/10 back and looking to retaliate.
Robertson is making that truck as wide as possible. Sabo is all over him, 2/10 back, but Rene is placing his Chevy exactly where it needs to be to hold that spot.
Sabo still stalking Robertson, keeping the gap to 3/10 as they fight for 6th.
You can see the frustration in Szabo's driving style. He's getting a bit ragged. He needs to calm it down, hit his marks, and use the draft if he wants that position back before the flag.
Robertson is slowly pulling away. That gap to Szabo has doubled, now sitting at 6/10 of a second.
Szabo's probably overheated those front tires trying to stay close. Once you lose that front end bite, the gap just starts to grow like a rubber band snapping.
Robertson is putting in a solid shift, holding on to 6th with a 6/10 lead over Szabo.
He's found his rhythm again. That last lap was consistent, and he's using the whole width of the track to keep his momentum up. This is a very professional drive from Robertson.
Szabo hasn't given up yet, shaving a 10th off Robertson's lead as the gap narrows to half a second. Szabo is chipping away at it. He's closed the gap to 4/10 now, keeping Robertson very much in his sights. Fovarg is putting in the laps now, trying to hunt down Hallam for the final podium spot.
He's got the gap under a second. In these trucks, once you get that sniff of a podium, you start taking risks you wouldn't take for 5th or 6th. Dominic is on the limit here.
Hallam responds. He's pushed that gap back out to over a second, giving himself some breathing room from Fovarg. Szabo is right back on the hunt, 3/10 behind Robertson as they fight for every inch of tarmac.
He's really maximizing the draft on the straights. You can see the Chevy twitching as he stays as close as possible, without losing downforce on the nose.
Szabo has dropped back again. Robertson has doubled the gap to 6/10, keeping the Italian at arm's length. Tyus is keeping Stokes honest at the front, holding steady within 6/10 of the lead. Stokes is beginning to pull away. The gap at the front has grown to 9/10 of a second.
Chris is hitting his marks perfectly. Every time Adam thinks he's got a sniff, Stokes just finds another gear. That sub 2-minute pace is relentless from the leader.
Fovarg is holding firm in 4th, trying to chip away at Hallam's 9/10 lead.
He's matching Hallam's pace almost down to the 1,000th. It's a high-speed stalemate right now, but we know how quickly things can change if someone gets a wheel on the grass.
Tyus is still in the hunt, sitting 7/10 behind Stokes as they look toward the closing laps. Stokes maintains his edge with the gap holding steady at 8/10 of a second over Tyus.
This is where the mental fatigue kicks in. Keeping that gap under a second is exhausting for Tyus, but Chris can't afford a single lockup here.
Dorado is hounding James Garvok for a top 10 finish, trailing by only 2/10.
He's been fighting for this position all race. Garvok is defensive, but Thomas looks like he's got the better exit speed right now. This is going to be close.
Dorado makes the move. He jumps into 10th, but Garvok is practically touching his bumper.
He squeezed through a gap that barely existed. That is gutsy driving from Thomas. Now he's got to survive the retaliation from James.
Szabo finds himself in 9th now, with a 1.3-second mountain to climb to catch Nigel Walters. Szabo has dropped another place to 10th, and his chances of catching Walters have evaporated with that gap ballooning to over 4 seconds. Garvok is in 11th, trying to reel in Szabo, who sits 0.6 of a second up the road. Szabo is pulling away. The gap has grown to 0.9 as Garvok struggles to keep pace. Chris Stokes can see the officials getting that flag ready. He's got a comfortable 1.3-second cushion over Tyus as he heads toward the line.
He's kept his head while everyone else was losing theirs. This is a composed, clinical finish from Stokes, after a very hard-fought battle at the front.
Chris Stokes takes the checkered flag from 13th on the grid to the top step of the podium. What a phenomenal drive.
13 to first? That's legendary. He carved through the field, survived the restarts, and just never stopped pushing. That is why we love this sport.
Adam Tyus comes home in 2nd, a fantastic recovery from 8th on the grid to secure a podium finish.
He gave Stokes everything he had. To jump 6 places in this field is no small feat. Tyus should be incredibly proud of that performance.
Jareth Hallam secures the final spot on the podium. Coming from 11th to 3rd, he's really earned that trophy.
His late race pace was the difference maker. He stayed patient while others were banging doors and pounced when it mattered most. Excellent podium for Hallam.
Fovarg leads the rest of the pack home in 4th, followed closely by Constable Barry, Robertson, and Boontakis as they all cross the stripe. Walters, Dorado, and Szabo round out the top 10, with Garvok just missing out in 11th.
Those mid-pack battles were some of the best of the race. Every single one of those drivers left it all out there on the track today.
And a tough day at the office for Robert Cormack, who eventually crosses the line in 12th place. TikTok for Robert Cormack. We have less than 8.5 minutes left on the clock, and he still hasn't posted a representative time.
He's cutting it fine. You want those baseline laps early to find your rhythm, otherwise you're heading into qualifying with more questions than answers.
Jareth Hallam is still sitting without a time on the board, and that clock is starting to look a bit unfriendly with only 7.5 minutes left.
Walters is leaving it late. In my experience, sitting in the garage while everyone else is scrubbing in tires just adds unneeded pressure for the final run.
Hallam is still a ghost. On the timing screens, he needs to get that car out of the lane or he's going to find himself completely blind for the start of the race.
Every minute he spends stationary is a minute he's not learning where the grip is. At this point, even a banker's lap is better than nothing.
Still nothing from Nigel Walters. The clock is ticking down past the 6-minute mark, and he hasn't even sniffed a flying lap.
He might be making setup changes, but you can't simulate track evolution in the pits. He needs to get out there and feel the surface.
Jareth Hallam is really testing our patience now. 5 minutes and change left, and his name is still at the bottom of the list without a single lap recorded.
It's risky. You don't want your first representative lap of the day to be under the pressure of a ticking clock. One mistake and he's got zero data to work with.
Now, David Constable-Berry is joining that list of drivers yet to put a mark on the board. Only 5 minutes left to find a gap in the traffic.
This late in the session, the track is usually at its fastest. If he can get out now, he might only get 2 flying laps to figure out his braking points.
Still no time for Jareth Hallam. We are well under 5 minutes now, and that garage door must be looking very heavy.
He's running out of road. If he has any sort of technical gremlin on his outlap, he won't get a single flyer in before the flag.
Four minutes on the clock, and still a blank space next to Nigel Walters. He's cutting this dangerously close. Jareth Hallam is still missing in action on the leaderboard. 3.5 minutes left. That is barely enough time for an outlap and one shot out.
It's a massive gamble, You're asking the tires to be perfect and the traffic to clear exactly when you need it. I'd be pacing the pit wall if I were his engineer.
Three minutes to go, and Walters is still without a time. He's officially in the danger zone now.
He has to be rolling down the pit lane this second. Any delay at the end of the garage, and he won't even cross the line before the checkered flag drops.
Constable Barry finally puts a marker down, and it is a beauty, straight into second place with a 2-minute flat.
Talk about making it count. He waited for the rubber to lay down and used that track evolution to find every bit of grip available.
Renee Robertson is cutting it down to the absolute wire here. Just 2 minutes remaining and still no time on the board.
This is high-stakes stuff. One lockup or a wide exit on this lap, and the session is a total write-off for him.
Robertson is effectively on a one-lap shootout here, less than a minute to go, and he's only just getting to work.
He's got zero margin for error. If he overcooks the entry into the first corner, he's going into the race completely blind.
Garvok is still sitting on a 0 with 24 seconds to go. He's missed the boat if he isn't already on a flyer.
He's basically just out there for a Sunday drive at this point. You aren't finding the limit with the clock already hitting red.
Seven seconds. Renee Robertson is practically racing the sunset here, still waiting for that first time to register.
He must be on his flying lap right now, but the pressure is immense. There are no second chances when the clock is this close to 0.
Constable Barry has absolutely lit up the timing screens. A 1:58.5 pulls him right to the top of the pile with seconds to spare.
That is a statement lap. To find that kind of time when the track is at its busiest shows, he's found a real sweet spot with the balance of that car.
Renee Robertson is really in the hot seat now, barely 70 seconds left, and he still hasn't registered a lap.
Sabo is leaving it until the dying embers of the session. He's going to have one shot at this, and his tires better be up to temperature right now.
Here we go, folks. The atmosphere is electric as the drivers prepare to unleash their machines on the track at Brasilia Normal for the qualifying session.
The pressure is on to set the fastest lap times, and the tension in the air is palpable.
David Constable Barry is just rolling out of the lane now with 5.5 minutes left to find a gap in the traffic.
Robertson's leaving it late to get heat into those tires. He's only going to get a couple of bites at the cherry with 5 minutes on the clock.
Robert Cormack is cutting it fine here. He's barely got time for a banker lap before he has to really push for the pole. Tick-tock for Greg Sabo, just over 4 minutes to go, and he hasn't even registered on the board yet.
He's under pressure now. One mistake, one lockup, and he's starting from the back of the grid. No margin for error.
Constable Barry is still looking for clear track, but the window is slamming shut.
He needs to go now. If he catches a slower car on this outlap, his session is effectively over before it's even started.
Constable Barry finally puts a number on the board, and it's a big one. Straight into P2 with a 158.7.
Decent banker, but look at the clock. He has just enough time to fuel up for one last flyer if he stays pinned. Robertson is flirting with disaster here. He has to make this lap count, or he is buried at the back of the pack.
Thomas Kruger Dorado is finding time. He has a 10th up on his own personal best as he comes through this sector.
He is using every inch of the curbs there. If he keeps this momentum through the final complex, he is going to jump up a few spots on the grid.
Walters is on a charge, finding nearly a tenth and a half on his best pace with only 60 seconds left in the session.
He looks stable on the brakes, really trusting the front end. If he can nail the exit onto the straight, he could easily challenge the top 5.
Stokes is absolutely flying, nearly 3/10 up on his own pole position time as the clock ticks down.
Stokes just put the hammer down with a 157.9. That is a massive statement right at the flag.
Walters is 2/10 up on his final attempt. He's throwing everything at this to salvage a better starting spot.
Robertson has finally found his rhythm. He's over 3/10 up and could be the big mover in these dying seconds.
Bontakis is absolutely gutting his previous best, nearly a full second faster as he chases down the top 10.
Garvok is finding little gains here and there. A tenth of a second might not sound like much, but it's the difference between a clean start and the chaos of the pack.
Fovarg is nearly 2 seconds off his best pace. He must have had a massive moment somewhere on this lap.
He's overdriven it. You can see the car snapping at him. He needs to breathe, reset, and hope he can squeeze one more clean flyer in.
Bontakis is right on the bubble of his best time, just 7/100ths adrift as he works through the middle sector. Bontakis crosses the line but can't find an improvement, holding steady in 11th for now. Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it. On.
Chris Stokes is on pole. David Constable Barry holds that second spot on the grid, putting that Chevy Montana right at the sharp end of the Pro-Am field.
Hallam is looming large in P3, and you know Jareth isn't going to be content sitting behind the lead pair for long.
Adam Tyus is the one to watch here, leading the AM class from 4th overall and looking to give the Pro-Am boys a real headache into turn 1. Thomas Kruger-Dorado rounds out the top 5, putting a lot of pressure on Tyus just ahead.
Dorado needs a clean launch here. If he can get that Montana hooked up early, he's in the perfect spot to capitalize on any mess at the front. Robertson starts from the 3rd row, and in these trucks, that middle of the pack spot is a dangerous place to be when the red lights go out.
Nigel Walters sits in 7th, looking to make up ground and close the gap to Tyus for that AM class lead.
Fovarg has his work cut out for him from 8th. It's a long way back, but if he stays patient, the race will come to him.
Italy's Greg Sabo starts down in 9th, making it 3 different AM class drivers tucked inside the top 10. James Garvok anchors the top 10 in that Scottish liveried Montana, looking to leapfrog Sabo right off the line.
Starting 10th is a double-edged sword. You avoid the front row squeeze, but you're right in the firing line if anyone stalls ahead of you.
John Bountikis lines up in 11th, the Greek driver hoping to use the slipstream to pull himself into that top 10 battle early on.
He needs to be careful with his braking points into the first corner. From 11th, the concertina effect can catch you out before you've even completed a lap.
Green flags. The engines roar and we are racing. A wall of Chevys charging hard toward the first braking zone.
Clean start so far, but look at the positioning. Everyone is trying to find clean air and a piece of tarmac to call their own.
Chris Stokes holds his nerve and keeps the lead, nailing the start to stay exactly where he wants to be.
Walters has had a shocker of a start, dropping 3 places down to 10th. He's found himself completely boxed in.
Tough opening for Nigel Walters. He's tumbled down the order and currently sits in 10th.
He's lost the rhythm early. When you lose 3 spots on the first lap, it's usually because you've been too cautious or got bullied off the line.
Constable Barry has gone backwards. He started on the front row, but he's already slipped down to 4th.
He looked hesitant into the first corner. You can't afford to be polite in a Montana or these guys will just swarm you.
Dorado is another one losing out in this frantic opening lap, dropping 2 places to 7th.
It's pure chaos out there. Thomas just couldn't find a hole to tuck into, and he's paid the price by losing track position.
Dorado is hounding the back of Garbach now, only 2 tenths separating them as James makes a massive leap up into 6th.
Walters and Robertson are door to door. There is absolutely nothing between them as they battle for 10th with 17 minutes still on the clock.
Nigel Walters has managed to squeeze out a tiny bit of breathing room, putting 3 tenths between himself and Robertson.
He's just about broken the overlap, but 3 tenths is still very much in the danger zone for a slipstream attack.
Garbach is breathing down Sabo's neck, just 3 tenths back after posting a 2:10.8 on that opening lap.
The gap has opened up to 6 tenths now. Shivo has clearly found his stride and is starting to pull away from Garbach.
Dorado is right there, only 2 tenths behind Sabo now as he looks to reclaim one of those lost positions. Dorado makes the move. He's muscled his way past Szabo into 6th.
That was bold. He used the momentum perfectly there to get alongside, and now Szabo is the one having to look in his mirrors. Szabo's got no time to mourn losing that spot to Dorado. He's got Garbach looming large in the mirrors just 2 tenths back.
Sabo is finally stretching his legs here, pulling out the gap to 8 tenths and giving himself some much-needed breathing room from Garbach.
Tyas has just dipped into the 59s. That pace is blistering, and it has brought him right to the rear bumper of Fovarg.
Jareth Hallam is holding onto that final podium spot with a 2 flat, but Fovarg is lurking just 6 tenths behind him.
Hallam can't afford to get complacent. When you see a gap that small, you start driving to the mirrors, and that's exactly when you miss your apexes.
Wait, Hallam has dropped like a stone. He's fallen all the way to 10th while Fovarg inherits that 3rd place. Something has gone catastrophically wrong for Jareth. As a former racing driver, Sky, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely crucial, Hal. The team provides valuable information and support, helping the driver make the right decisions on track. A strong bond between the driver and the team can be the difference between winning and losing. Tyus is the fastest man in this mid-pack battle, and he's got Fovarg firmly in his sights for that final podium position.
Tyus is chipping away at it. The gap to Fovarg is down to just 4/10 now.
He's finding time in the braking zones. If he keeps this up, he'll have the slipstream he needs to make a move on the next straight.
Dorado is all over Sabo. 0.2 of a second is all that's left between 5th and 6th place. Sabo manages to find a few extra yards, stretching that lead over Dorado back out to 4/10.
That's smart driving from Sabo, taking a defensive line that's just enough to break Dorado's rhythm through that complex.
Adam Tyus is absolutely hounding Fovarg. He's within 0.2 and looking for any opportunity to pounce.
He's close enough to smell the exhaust fumes now. Tyus is being patient, but in these trucks, you have to be decisive when the door opens.
Fovarg holds firm for now, managing to pull that gap back out to 0.4 of a second.
He's placing the car perfectly. Tyus is faster, but Fovarg is making that Chevy Montana wide as a house right now.
James Garvach has stabilized in 7th with a 2-minute flat, pulling over a second clear of Nigel Walters. Fovarg has slipped to 4th, and he's currently sitting about 0.9 ahead of Greg Sabo.
He needs to stop the bleeding. Losing a podium spot is a gut punch, but he can't let Sabo drag him into another dogfight if he wants to catch the leaders.
Disaster for Dominic Fovarg. He's plummeted down to 8th, while Sabo and a host of others go sailing past. Dorado is moving up the order, now sitting in 5th and chasing down Greg Sabo.
He's got his head down. That 7/10 gap is manageable, but he needs to be careful not to cook his front tires while he's in Sabo's dirty air. What on earth happened to Dorado? He's dropped back to 8th and is suddenly 6 seconds adrift of that battle with Sabo.
It has been a bruising first few minutes, Sky. We've seen podium contenders like Hollam and Fovarg just tumble down the order in the blink of an eye.
That's the nature of these Montanas, Hal. They're heavy, they've got a high center of gravity, and once you get a slide going or catch a curb wrong, it's a nightmare to gather it back up.
It really rewards the drivers who can stay smooth under pressure, but smooth doesn't always win you positions on the opening laps.
Exactly. I remember racing similar specs where you're constantly fighting the urge to overdrive. If you get greedy with the throttle on corner exit, you're just burning rubber and going nowhere.
And with 12 minutes left, those who have managed to keep their noses clean like Stokes at the front are sitting pretty, while the rest of the field is in a state of flux.
Stokes is putting on a clinic in game management, but keep an eye on those AM-class drivers. They're mixing it up with the pros and showing some real steel today.
Nigel Walters is holding on to 6th for dear life, with Fovarg breathing down his neck only half a second away. Fovarg is closing in. That gap to Walters has shrunk to just 0.4 now.
Dominic is searching for a way through. He's looking at different lines, trying to find a better exit to get alongside Nigel on the run to the next corner.
Fovarg is side by side with Walters. He's erased that gap completely, and they're duking it out for 6th.
This is brave stuff. Neither driver wants to back out, but you can't go through a narrow section too wide without someone giving way.
Fovarg gets it done. He snatched 6th place away from Walters, but Nigel is still tucked right under his bumper.
Walters isn't letting Fovarg pull away. He's staying within a tenth and looking for the immediate counterattack.
A tiny bit of breathing room for Fovarg now, but only 0.2 of a second separates the pair.
Walters might have overcooked the entry trying to stay close. He's got to settle back into a rhythm if he wants another look at that 6th place.
Fovarg is putting in the work to keep that 6th spot, maintaining a 0.3 lead over Walters as we pass the 9-minute mark. Fovarg moves up to 5th, and look at that gap. He's managed to put a full second between himself and Walters in the blink of an eye. We are hitting the halfway mark now, and the attrition rate in terms of track position has been staggering.
It is that classic case of the red mist descending, Hal. You lose one spot, you try to make it back immediately, and suddenly you have dropped 5.
Fovarg seems to be the only one who has managed to steady the ship after his earlier mishap, clawing his way back into the top 5.
He is showing real maturity. When I was in the car, the hardest thing to do was accept a mistake and reset. If you don't, the track just eats you alive.
These Chevrolet Montanas look like a handful on the brakes, too. You can see the rear end dancing under heavy deceleration.
They are trucks. At the end of the day, you have to be patient with the weight transfer. If you're too aggressive on the trail braking, that rear end will overtake the front before you can say podium.
Garvok is currently holding 6th, but Nigel Walters is absolutely lurking half a second back.
James's last lap was a bit off his best. He needs to find that extra gear soon because Walters is definitely smelling blood in the water.
Walters is closing in again. The gap to Garvok has dropped to just 0.3 as they scream down the straight.
Walters is keeping the pressure on Garvok, maintaining that 0.4 gap, and waiting for even the slightest mistake.
Garvok has found a bit of breathing room, extending the lead over Walters to 0.7 of a second.
That's a vital few yards of tarmac. It takes him out of the immediate danger zone for a dive bomb, and lets him focus on his own lines again.
Wait, the order is flipped. Garvok is now back in 7th, and he is right on the tail of Walters.
He must have had a moment or missed a shift. To lose the place and be that close means he's absolutely desperate to get it back immediately.
Fovarg is on a flyer. A personal best of 1:59.5 has brought him within a second of Sabo in 4th. Fovarg is still eating into that lead. He's whittled Sabo's advantage down to 0.8.
He's in the zone now. You can see he's hitting every apex with surgical precision. Sabo's going to start checking his mirrors very frequently now.
Garvok is in 7th, but he can't just look forward. Renee Robertson is only 0.8 back and looking to move up.
Robertson is closing the gap. He's pulled 0.2 back on Garvok, putting the Scottish driver under serious pressure from behind.
Renee Robertson has just put in a monster lap, a 1:59.0, the fastest we've seen from him today.
That is incredible pace. If he keeps that up, Garvok won't be able to hold him off for more than a lap. He's absolutely flying.
He is right there. Robertson is all over the back of Garvok. Only 0.2 in it now.
He's got the momentum. When you're a full second faster lap, the car in front looks like it's standing still. This move is coming any second.
Walters is trying to keep pace with Fovar, staying consistent in the 59s and keeping that gap to 7/10.
Stalemate between these two for now. Neither Walters nor Fovarg is giving an inch as the clock ticks down to the final 4 minutes.
Robertson makes it look easy. He's through into 7th and has already bolted to an 8/10 lead over Garvok. Robertson holding steady in 7th, keeping that 8/10 buffer over James Garvok.
He's broken the toe. Once you get past that half-second mark, the car behind loses that little bit of slipstream help, making it much harder to fight back.
Walters is digging deep here, chipping another 10th off the gap to Fovarg as he chases 5th place.
He's keeping the pressure on. With only a few minutes left, he's hoping Fovarg makes a mistake under the heat of the battle.
Renee Robertson is on absolute fire. He's just dipped into the 158 range and is closing fast on Walters.
Sub 59. That is a blistering pace for this stage of the race. Renee is the fastest man on track right now, no question about it.
Robertson is closing the gap. He's whittled another 2/10 off Walters' lead, bringing the margin down to just half a second.
Walters is throwing everything at this. A personal best of 1:59.6 has him right on the tail of Fovarg for 5th.
Walters is glued to Fovarg's bumper, only 4/10 of a second between them as we approach the final stages.
Fovarg is defending for his life. You can see him prioritizing the exits, making sure Walters can't get a run on him down the straights.
Robertson is still charging, keeping that half-second gap to Walters and looking for any opening to snatch 6th.
Walters is holding him off for now. Even with Robertson's superior pace, passing in these trucks requires a massive mistake or a very bold move.
Walters is under heavy fire. Robertson is closed to within a single 10th. This is a battle for 6th that's about to boil over.
Walters' pace has dropped off slightly on that last lap. He's struggling to keep that Montana in line while Renee is just hounding him relentlessly.
Wait, Walters has moved up to 5th. And look at the gap back to Robertson. It's opened up to 6/10.
Something must have happened to Fovarg ahead, or there was a scuffle. Walters has capitalized on it beautifully to give himself a bit of breathing room.
Fovarg has slipped down to 7th, and he's now chasing Robertson, who sits just 3/10 ahead of him. Robertson is all over Walters. Only 2/10 of a second between 5th and 6th as we head into the final minutes.
This is the battle to watch. Robertson has the pace, but Walters is a veteran defender. He's going to make Renee work for every inch of track.
Robertson has lost ground. He's dropped to 7th and now finds himself nearly a full second behind Walters.
Fovarg is back into 6th, and he's not letting Walters out of his sight, trailing by just 4/10.
Fovarg is closing in. Only 3/10 separates him from Walters in the fight for 5th.
He's definitely found something in that last sector. He's taking a much more aggressive line through the final turns, trying to set up a move.
Hallam is making a late charge. He's within 4/10 of Garvok for 8th place.
Jarrett's been quiet since that early mistake, but he's finally getting back into a groove. If he can get past Garvok, he might still salvage a decent result here.
Hallam makes the move. He snatched 8th away from Garvok, but they're still side by side.
Rubbing is racing. They are banging doors out there. Neither one of them wants to yield an inch of tarmac this late in the race.
Fovarg is staying within striking distance of Walters, holding that 4/10 gap as we start lap 10.
He's biding his time. He knows Walters is defending hard, and he's waiting for that one moment where the rear of Nigel's Montana steps out just a little too far.
Robertson is right back in the mix, just 3/10 behind Fovarg in the battle for 6th.
Robertson has muscled his way past. He takes 6th, but Fovarg is glued to his rear bumper. They're practically one car right now.
Wait, Robertson has slipped back again. Fovarg reclaims 6th place and puts 3/10 between them.
This is an absolute slugfest. They're trading paint and positions every other corner. It's great to watch, but it must be exhausting in the cockpit.
Robertson is back into 6th, and he's got Fovarg, who's now moved up to 5th, firmly in his sights, 4/10 ahead.
Robertson is closing in on Fovarg, whittling that gap down to just 3/10 now.
I can't keep up with this mid-pack battle, Sky. It's like a revolving door between 5th, 6th, and 7th.
It's proper old-school racing, Hal. No one is giving an inch, and they're all using every bit of the track, and occasionally a bit more.
You have to wonder about the state of their tires at this point. They've been sliding those trucks around for nearly 20 minutes now.
Oh, the grip will be falling off a cliff. When the rubber goes, you have to be so delicate with the throttle, but these guys are still driving like it's lap 1.
That's what makes it so thrilling. One small mistake from any of them, and it'll be a complete shuffle of the order before the checkered flag.
It's all about who can keep their composure when the car is dancing underneath them. We're seeing some real grit out there today.
Fovarg is holding on to 5th, but he's 7/10 adrift of Walters in 4th as we enter the final minutes.
He needs to stop looking in his mirrors and start focusing on the road ahead if he wants to catch Nigel. He's got the pace, he just needs the consistency.
Fovarg and Walters are locked in a stalemate, that 7/10 gap holding steady as they charge toward the finish. Chris Stokes is just 20 seconds away from glory, holding a commanding 4.5-second lead over Constable Barry.
Clinical. Stokes started on pole and never looked back. A perfect legs to flag victory for the man today.
Impressive second-place finish for DCB.
Brilliant. Daddy Dave showed great skill and determination to take second place.
Adam Tyus brings it home in 3rd. A fantastic drive to gain a spot and secure a podium finish from 4th on the grid. Walters fends off the late charge to take 4th, followed by Fovarg in 5th after that absolute roller coaster of a race.
Sabo and Hallam round out that pack in 6th and 7th. After all those door-to-door battles, they'll be exhausted, but that was some proper hard-fought racing from the midfield.
Garvok and Robertson crossed the line to take 8th and 9th, finally bringing an end to their intense duel for track position. And Robert Cormack rounds out the top 10, securing the final spot in the first group home.
He stayed out of the chaos and kept his nose clean. In a race like this, sometimes just being there at the end is half the battle.